A poet they called the madman, a book rumored to be bound in the skins of the dead, forbidden incantations, names never meant to be spoken, and rituals older than mankind itself. Burned, banned, hunted for centuries, yet it survived, whispering from the shadows. Its pages don't just tell stories, they open doors. Doors that were never meant to be opened. Those who tried to read it, some went mad, some disappeared, and one by one, the book took them. But the real horror, the way its author died, as if the book itself turned on him. In this episode, we dive deep into the origins of Al-Azif, or the Necronomicon, the legendary book of madness, the cursed man who wrote it, and the chilling connection between this forbidden book and Lovecraft's mythos. Don't forget to grab your favorite drink, and let's get started. Let's journey back to the 8th century AD to Sana'a, Yemen. There lived an eccentric poet who stirred controversy in life and ignited terror in death. His name was Abdullah al-Hazrat. But he wasn't just a poet, he was known as the Mad Poet, a man who plunged into realms no one else dared explore. Al-Hazrat was no ordinary man. He was obsessed with creatures said to have inhabited Earth before humans, convinced their traces lingered, hidden in places no one dared search. He didn't just talk about these beings, he predicted their return one day, to reclaim the world they dominated before humanity. This obsession drove him to wander the ancient world. He scoured lost maps, moved amongst ruins, desperate to find proof for his theories. His journey began in Iraq, roaming the ruins of Babylon and the crypts of Mesopotamia, then across the desert to Egypt, contemplating the pyramids, certain they hid secrets far older than anyone admitted. After years of travel, he found himself in the most mysterious place of all, the empty quarter. There, he spent 10 years of utter isolation. Rumors say he heard strange voices speaking to him, that he wasn't as alone as everyone thought. When he finally emerged from his seclusion, he headed to Damascus. There, he began writing his infamous book, the Necronomicon, or as translated into Arabic, Kitab al-Mawta. In this book, he recorded everything he'd seen and learned. He described creatures not of this world, spoke of dark sorcery, and revealed dangerous secrets no one was ever meant to know. Let's open this book and dive into what's written inside. Between the forbidden pages of this tome lay deadly secrets, incantations and rituals no one should read, and the names that must not be spoken. It wasn't just text and spells. Its pages were filled with bizarre geometric symbols and drawing unlike anything humanity had ever seen. They say the binding itself is made from the skins of the dead. But whose skins? Where did it come from? No one has the answer, and it's best not to ask. The book speaks of eternal beings, not of this world. Creatures that were here before us and will remain long after we're gone. Some sleep in ocean depths, awaiting their moment to wake. Others walk among us unseen. It tells of Cthulhu, the colossal being with tangled limbs, slumbering in a sunken city beneath the sea. They say he doesn't die, only dreams, waiting for the moment someone wakes him to return and conquer Earth. Then there is Nyarlathotep, the harbinger of chaos, the only elder one said to interact with humans. Shapeless, he slithers into minds, planting madness. He leads the power-hungry towards ruin, becoming part of them without their knowing. As for Azathoth, the entity holding absolute knowledge, merely glimpsing it's enough to shatter a mind. For the truths it embodies are beyond human comprehension. Deep within the chaos lurks Yazoth, the eternal king of madness. If he ever wakes, the universe collapses. Time and space would vanish in an instant, everything dissolving into nothingness. But this book isn't just about describing these entities. Rumor has it, it contains magical rituals and incantations capable of opening doors between our world and the unknown. Yet anyone daring enough to try might unlock gates that can never be closed again. This cursed tome traces back to a single man, dubbed the Madman, Abdullah al-Hazrat. Al-Hazrat repeatedly traveled to places no human should trade, witnessing otherworldly beings firsthand. When he returned, he brought back horrifying secrets of monstrous creatures and learned rituals to summon and commune with the dead. The story deepens was, according to Al-Hazrat's own records. He discovered the ruins of Iram of the Pillars, the last city mentioned in the Quran, buried beneath the sands as punishment. But things grew even more terrifying when whispers claimed he wasn't alone in that cursed land. He allegedly encountered strange beings who taught him dangerous rites, enabling him to travel through time and witness the past in ways no one ever had. Much of what we know about the Necronomicon today comes from the writer Lovecraft. He masterfully wove tales of the book with such chilling realism. It blurred the line between fiction and something more, which raises the real questions. Was Al-Hazrat just a mad poet, or did he truly glimpse secrets humans were never meant to know? Either way, knowledge has a price, and this book's cost was steep. No one who tried deciphering it was safe, not even its author. Al-Hazrat's own end was horrifying and shrouded in mystery. The accounts of his end vary, but they all carry a deep sense of horror and a complete absence of logical explanation. Some storytellers claim his demise was even more gruesome than anything imaginable. According to several 13th century historians, Abdullah was seen in one of Baghdad's bustling markets when suddenly a terrifying creature appeared, seemingly out of thin air, as if conjured from a nightmare. This colossal being, its form unclear, attacked Abdullah and cut his body to pieces, right before the stunned crowd, who stood frozen, utterly helpless. Then, just as suddenly, the creature vanished, leaving only scattered remains behind, remains whose fate remains unknown. Another narrative tells of him vanishing mysteriously, as if the earth simply swallowed him whole without a trace. His body was never found, nor any evidence of him, as though he'd vanished into thin air, leaving behind nothing but an unanswerable question. Some voices whisper that he was killed by religious extremists or rival sorcerers. Those who feared Abdullah might expose secrets threatening their inherited power, and that he paid with his life for the knowledge he possessed. Whatever the truth may be, his end was always shrouded in mystery, much like the book he left behind. Legends of his horrific death still circulate today, lingering like a specter hunting the spirit of this man, who seemingly knew no boundaries of knowledge. In the year 738 AD, the life of Abdullah al-Hazrat came to an end, the mad poet who was more like an explorer of the dark. And now comes the bigger question. Why is Lovecraft's name linked to this book? How did he even know about it? Was he just a horror writer using ancient myths for his stories? Or was there some hidden connection between him and the secrets of Al-Hazrat? It said the idea of the book, or perhaps the book itself, reaching one of the greatest writers of horror and mythos, Lovecraft, came through various channels. According to some accounts, Lovecraft himself wrote a letter to the American writer Clark Ashton Smith, discussing details of the book and how Lovecraft had reached some startling conclusions while working with it. This letter, seen by a few, suggests the book existed before Lovecraft incorporated it into his own writings. The book's first known translation dates back to 950 AD, when a monk named Theodore Philetus rendered it into Greek. From then, it became known in the West as the Necronomicon, or Book of Dead Names, but its time in the public eye was short-lived. By 1050 AD, Patriarch Michael I had ordered every copy burned, after reports had reached him claiming that anyone who read it either went mad or vanished under strange circumstances. Despite the attempts to wipe it out, the book refused to disappear entirely. In 1228 AD, Olaus Wormius translated it into Latin, giving it a new lease on life. Even this version, however, couldn't escape the church's wrath. Come the early 16th century, another copy turned up, this time in the hands of John Dee, the famed English mathematician and occultist. In 1586, John Dee, with help from his assistant Edward Kelly, decided to translate the book into English, but this version never saw the light of day. It was kept under absolute secrecy. It was known that Dee was an advisor to the Queen Elizabeth I, with a deep fascination for the esoteric and magical, which drove his pursuit of this legendary text. His translated copy supposedly stayed tucked away in the Oxford Library for a long while, though interestingly, it didn't stay put forever, eventually passing into other hands. And then we meet Aleister Crowley, Arguably one of the history's most controversial occult figures, Crowley was deeply fascinated by Abdullah al-Hazrat, the Necronomicon's mythical author, and began journeying to places Abdullah was rumored to have visited while writing it, always seeking to unlock the book's secrets. Crowley started performing rituals inspired by its contents, weaving himself right into the book's own dark legend. In 1918, Crowley met Sonia Green, considered one of his closest confidants. During their relationship, he shared tales of the book and his connection to it, recounting his travels in search of its forbidden lure. Though their relationship eventually ended, Green carried the book to someone who would profoundly shape the Necronomicon's modern story. That someone was Lovecraft. Howard Lovecraft, who became one of the 20th century's most famous horror writers, began weaving details from the book into his own stories. Captivated by its dark mythology, Lovecraft reimagined its lure, casting Abdullah al-Hazrat as a central figure in his fiction, becoming inseparable from Lovecraft's literary universe, right alongside Cthulhu and the Old Ones. Though he likely never held the original text, Lovecraft gained extensive details about the book and its contents directly from Sonia Green through literary works like The Shadow over Innsmouth and At the Mountains of Madness. Lovecraft masterfully wove the Necronomicon into the fabric of his terrifying cosmos. This cemented the book's status as one of the most influential texts in horror and science fiction. Lovecraft himself became a major source of inspiration for other writers, many of whom sought his permission to reference his creations, further amplifying his profoundly impact on the genre of the macabre. Then in 1977, Simon published a book titled Necronomicon, the Book of Magic, heavily inspired by concepts from the original. It became a go-to reference for thinkers exploring the paranormal. It served as a launchpad for countless researchers, delving into mythical creatures and ancient legends. Despite all this mystery, one question persists. Was the Necronomicon ever a real book? Some insist it was pure fiction invented by Lovecraft, while others convinced it genuinely existed, arguing that a name like Necronomicon couldn't have sprung solely from Lovecraft's imagination. They point to the book's surprisingly detailed descriptions of the Middle East and desert landscapes, which begs wondering about the source of such precise knowledge. Sure, Lovecraft himself stated in a letter to Willis Conover that the book was entirely his creation, but intriguing clues suggest there might be more to the story. Take, for example, Lovecraft mentioned Olaus Warriams, who claimed to have translated the book in 1228 AD. Turns out, the real Warriams was a 17th century Danish physician with no known ties to the occult. Similarly, Lovecraft credited John Dee as the first English translator. While Dee was indeed a mathematician, alchemist, and advisor to the Queen Elizabeth I, labeling him primarily a sorcerer stretches the historical records. A book of myth tied to so many enigmatic and arcane figures remains an unsolved puzzle to this day. Whether pure fiction or something more, it's become absolutely foundational to macabre literature and horror, inspiring writers and occult scholars for decades long after Lovecraft's death in 1937. In the end, the Necronomicon endures as an unsolvable riddle, its true secrets locked behind words, perhaps best left unread. Within its pages lies an unimaginable threat, a peril too great for the human mind to bear. From Abdullah al-Hazrat to Lovecraft, its story stays shrouded in the unknown, and everyone who got too close, they paid the price. So is the book purely fiction, or does something far darker lurk behind its legend? Do you dare to uncover its secrets? Perhaps the answer lies only with those reckless enough to seek what should never be found. And that was today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe to the channel. Catch you in the next one.